Just look around for a second to the person sitting next to you, and you will notice that he or she is very much different from you. And that difference that exists between you is what actually I'm going to talk about today. Good afternoon. This is Hamad Khan, and the reason which brought me here today is to share my ideas with you people based on difference between us. But don't worry, I'll keep it short because right now I'm the one who is standing between you and your lunch. And similarly, he was telling me that do not take much time because we are very hungry. So being a last speaker is a bit beneficial as well, because by now you may be so tired that you may clap for anything, and that's the reason I'm here. So some years ago, I invited one of my friends living in the valleys of Battagram to visit me, and it was his very first time to visit a crowded place like Peshawar. But anyhow, when he arrived, we were traveling through the crowded street. I was exploring him that how my city looks like. So while we were traveling, exploring, gossiping, suddenly he asked me a question. Now that's where a story begins. The question was very simple, that why everyone is so much in hurry while not making an eye contact with each other. Well, I answered him with no sound because I didn't know that what could be the reason. Are they so busy, not making even an eye contact? But that moment I realized that it is something I had never noticed before, which he noticed, that how fast it moves around me and how crowded it feels around me. Because he came from a different place. He came from a place where people visit unannounced, where they sit for hours just gossiping over dry apricots, tea, for many hours randomly. But still, being curious about things, I thought about very much. I took it seriously, that why he noticed it, why I didn't, although I'm living here, why there is so much difference between us, why his community prefer presence while mine speed and efficiency, and why he learned to be patient and I learned to survive huge traffic. And that was the sentence where I got my answer. It is because of our different way of life, which we often call culture. And whenever we listen a word culture, we think that it is something shared by divine revelation, inherited wisdom, or deep philosophies. But for a while, I thought, and I want you to also think, that what if culture are just shaped by the land beneath our feet? What if culture are just the glitches or side effect of geography? For example, we're going to understand this with a very quick example. Uh, let's suppose if I remove everyone national identity here, I am no longer from the place where I belongs to. You are no longer from the place, sir, you belongs to, and so is the case with everybody. And I give you all a fresh start to settle wherever you want. So maybe that gentleman in a three-piece suit choose to be settled in somewhere in hot areas. Maybe some of you choose mountains or even developed cities. So now I have a question for you. You can answer me just by raising your hand in case if your answer is yes. If you were grew up in a desert or in the hills of mountains, would you still like to dress the way you dress today? No, because your surrounding shapes you, the land, the weather. And it is the proof that it's not always about the tradition, but the ground we walk on. And even if you still choose to wear a three-piece in desert, you will melt faster than the ice in Peshawar. So that's where I begin to see that the culture does not develop from the books, but it silently grows from the soil. The land we live on quietly teaches us how to behave, how to talk, and even how to survive. Today we are here from different societies, we are from different culture. Let's suppose the first two, three rows is from the hot areas. The people sitting behind is from the mountains or they are from the developed city, let's suppose. So in hot areas, they learn to survive, they learn to value guests and share what little they have. They, villager, travel miles just to get water, yet if the traveler arrive, they will offer him food, shelter, because they know that surviving in the hot area is actually relying on strangers. So the desert teach them the warmth of a stranger, the hospitality. Meanwhile, in the mountains, where the roads are narrow, where weather is harsh, so new ideas and technology will take time to reach them. And that is why change in them will happen slowly. They will follow the old custom which have been there for many generations. And by the time news reaches to the mountains, it already became somehow history. So they are being taught to be patient. But in contrast, in developed cities, change happen rapidly. Why? Because they are open to world for trade. Ships bringing in more people, new ideas, and they are multicultural and mixed. So it is because of the speciality of our area, they which teach us different things that keeps us different. But still, curiosity exists in our mind. A question rises that is it because of me that keeps me ahead from the people living in the mountains? Is it because of my race, my intelligence that called me develop another backward? And the answer is quite simple no, but it's deep rooted in our land. And when we understand it, it becomes easy to look at why the people act the way they do because of their environmental demands. Whether it's the warmth of a stranger, slow-paced life of a mountain, or a rapid changing life of a developed city. According to one of the writer by the name of Jared Diamond, in his book Guns, Germs, and Steel, he said that it's not a race or intelligence that keeps some society progressed, but it's because of their natural resources, what they have, and their geography. So, for example, Europe were having animals that were easy to tame, so they help in transportation and warfare. On the other hand, Asia had big rivers like Indus, Yangtze, and which were very perfect for building large civilization and early farming. But in between some of the other part of the world, which was not very perfect for the early farming, for building large civilization, they lags behind in this specialty, not because the people were less smarter, but because of the tools, availability of different tools to different people. Like we have a coastline, and this coastline with many natural harbors. So it allows people to explore, to expand, and to connect. But we have a coastline, and that is with not many natural harbor, so it's gonna make a bit harder for the people. So in example number one, it brings opportunities, but in example number two, it brings imbalances. And when that imbalances meet with a struggling community, it shows up misunderstanding. And that is the point where you see difference between different culture. Reason number one. The reason number two is that geography is responsible for the communities at how it formed. Some people are living here, some people are living there, and as the time passes, they develop their own way of life. And gradually, their their way of life, their local identities can grow stronger than a shared national value, which create a space for misunderstanding. And it is because that the way of life, they take it or they call it something very precious. And there are multiple examples. One of the example is we right now. When I told you to look beside you, there were a lot of inferiority and superiority complexes. And even history gives us some of famous examples like a fertile land between Tigris and Euphrates, divided by rivers, desert, develop their own way of life. And that is the reason today we do not only study their brilliance, but the separation somehow among them too. So now you might be thinking that the problem is in geography. And next time when you get late to a class or a meeting, you may say, it's not my fault, it's my geography. Believe me, I was on the time, my geography made it happen. And trust me, your teacher will still mark you absent. They're gonna tell you, come on, come up with some stronger excuses even, at least because the geography is not an excuse. It's a reminder that how we all created. And it cannot limit us from connecting with others. But the real problem that there is still something which stops us from connecting. And that is the way of life, that is the culture we take from that soil, from that geography, we glorify it. We glorify it even more than our national identities. And that is the substantive motive that the separation or the division still persists even in the age of globalization. And maybe the reason we glorify is because of our geographical amnesia, the habit of forgetting why we all were created, why it was created. But happily, the moment we accept that no culture is superior, only different, we become less judgmental and more curious about the person sitting beside you. So I will tell you now, look again to the person sitting next to you, and this time from a different lens. This time, do not let the differences bring inferiority or alienation among us, but rather a spark that lead us toward betterment. And last but not least, if we see in my word, or I would say now in our words, my friend was not backward. He was just from the different landscape, who was very curious to know about my landscape. And just by not being judgmental, I connect with him. We are good friends. And that's how the societies and the people within the different societies can connect. And I think that's a picture of an ideal society we all imagine. Thank you so much, guys.